What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA Show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, we had a good night in the association. A couple of teams I'm excited to talk about, but I know you're excited for tonight in the association.
I'm excited for tonight. You get, and you know why I'm especially excited? It's fun when I don't have to get up first thing in the morning like I have the last couple of days and talk about this stuff. I can kind of relax, really take the game in, process my head around it. Because who isn't looking forward to Luka versus Dallas? I mean, that's really what this whole night's about.
It really is, man. We'll talk about that later on in the show. We're going to go deep on the Pistons. We wanted to talk Pacers. Pacers kind of laid an egg last night, so we'll save it for a little bit of a better moment. But Pistons are a team on a 7-game win streak. They're going to be our deep dive in segment 2 today. We're also going to talk about the Wolves coming back against the Thunder, or did the Thunder collapse? We'll talk about a little bit of both of those, plus some interesting players, Terrence Shannon, Rob Dillingham, a handful of others from that matchup. And, of course, later we'll preview that game he's talking about as Luka plays his old team. But let's start. Let's get a little warm up here, Legs, with some layup lines, some headlines from across the league. Not great layup lines for you today, to be honest with you. First one, 76ers fall to a new low. I feel like we've done this in layup lines like 6 times over the last month. Like, oh my gosh, Sixers had a horrible moment. But last night they were down like 45, 50 points. They lost their 8th in a row. There's, okay, our season is over. And then there's whatever lack of pride a team displayed last night getting blown out by the Bulls. What do you make of that?
First of all, I think it's funny the way you set this up. Not a great layup lines. It's like, so imagine the difference in layup lines. Like some layup lines, and I can just relate to this as a player. Come back off a 5-game road trip, right? And you got a day or two off, and it's that first home game after that, and everybody's dunking in layup lines, right? Because you're so like, so this isn't, you're saying this is more like the third, 4th game in 5 nights layup lines.
Yeah,
like
on the road.
Everybody's kind of laying it up. Some guys aren't even in layup lines. Like they're getting stretched, right? So, look, I'll tell you how bad it was last night. My daughter went to the game, and she had these tickets for a while, She goes to the game, and she texts me in the second quarter, oh my God, like it's so bad here, like the environment. They started Eagles chants at the Sixers game, like to basically mock the team.
Oh man.
They fell behind by 50 points at home to a 22-win team. And both the 2 out of the 3 stars playing, Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, were on the court, and they fell behind by 50 points. And I posed this question to you before we came on. Like, I don't know what rock bottom is necessarily anymore, because it still feels like more stuff can happen, but this is pretty close. You get news, first of all, on Joel Embiid. You and I both read the same report that was, I don't know who knows the accuracy of this stuff, but it was out there yesterday floating around that they're exploring experimental surgeries that could shelf him for a year. Okay. And if you're talking about shelving him for a year, you might really be talking about all of next season. So is you really going to bring him back in March when he hasn't played all year following, quote, experimental surgery? Look, I'm not saying they're going that route. I'm going to know a lot more about that this week in talking to people from the Sixers. I'm going to know a lot more about what really is going on there. But that's the news you get. And then on top of it, you got this debacle at home against a bad team, and you're down 50 points. And that's obviously just having no regard for its competitive nature at all. This might be rock bottom, Adam. I don't know, man. Maybe, is this it? Have we reached it?
You know what they need is they need a culture reset now, because you think like, okay, usually we're going to tank for the rest of the season. There's no point. They're through with this false hope. But you need to work on your culture. And so now it's like, how do we get this so that was a performance? And even Paul George cited it afterwards in the locker room. Like, our team doesn't care anymore. They're playing like they don't care. You can't tank and build a culture where the guys there aren't caring. So you got to figure out some way to be productive, even if the goal is no longer to win games. And we'll see if they do that. I mean, that's one of the big questions you have. And then, of course, that Embiid news. I don't know how accurate the reports are. Or, it seems like the first leaks are coming out. But him facing up to a year rehab, complete directional changer for you if you're the Sixers. If it could get worse in the association, that's why I said they're bad layup lines, because the Hornets lose by 40 points for the second straight game. They broke an NBA record, back-to-back games. They lost by a combined 95 points, 141-88 versus Portland. And then last night, 130-88 versus Sacramento. This is the problem with the NBA this time of year is you start getting these games where it's over in the first quarter. Forget halftime. Forget the third quarter. It's over after the first quarter. So I just thought I'd bring them up because the number was so insane.
Yeah, and it's not like the Sacramento Kings have been lighting the world on fire. I mean, they're going through some organizational transformation themselves since they made the Aaron Fox move, and you bring in Zach LaVine. Like they're trying to figure things out. They've got an interim coach. And so you're not talking about, look, if you're the Hornets and you're in this time of the year and you're coming out of the All-Star break and guys probably took a week off and you're playing the Celtics or the Thunder or the Cavs and something like this happens, you would kind of go, yeah, man, I guess they could do that to a team under these circumstances. That's not supposed to happen against the Kings. So, yeah, you're right, man. That is just brutal. And they had their guys. I mean, LaMelo Ball plays, Miles Bridges plays, Nurkic plays. So they had their guys out there too, and you're down, you lose the game by 42 points, man. That's a bad night, and you wonder you're going to see these kinds of games more frequently from this point forward.
All right, let's rinse it out here with a little bit of good news. Nikola Jokic had his career high last night in assists. 19 assists for a center. It's the second most all time from a center. Do you have the graphic, James, available to you? These are center assists. Wilt Chamberlain, I know, had 21. He also had 19, so Jokic now ties him for number 2 all time. And then you go beyond that, 18, Jokic 2 times, 17, Jokic 2 times, 16, Jokic 11 times. When you talk about assists from a center, it's Wilt a couple times, and then a big list of Jokic, but none more than last night's 19.
Well, here's how you sum it up with Jokic, and this is how you really kind of define greatness and like once in a lifetime greatness. Look at the shooting for an example. Been a lot of great shooters come through the league. I mean, just incredible shooters. The Klay Thompsons and the Ray Allens and Reggie Millers, right? The list goes on. And then Steph Curry comes along, and you go, he is so much better all time than everybody else has ever existed. Right? It kind of puts it in perspective. Like there's no more conversation. Think about some of the great passing centers we've lauded over the years, right? Bill Walton was always given credit as like this incredible passer. Arvydas Sabonis was considered one of the great passing big men of all time. You talked about some of the numbers of Wilt, and with Wilt, it was like almost like he decided to on a given season or a given night. Like that's what he was going to do, and he was able to do it. Clearly, you don't put up assist numbers like that unless you can pass. And now here comes Jokic, and you just referenced it, man, like all these lists. So now Jokic has basically completely obliterated conversation on this topic. Yeah. There is no person that plays the center position that's ever put a uniform on that's worthy of the conversation anymore as greatest passing big man. That's what we're talking about here. And that's when you know that like you're just what you're staring at and how you're unlikely to see it anytime soon, if ever.
This is like Jokic is going to be like Wilt. He in that when we look at the record books, 15 years from now and a center has 15 assists, it's going to be like they're the first guy since Jokic, and that's now one. Jokic has 37 games with 15 assists or more. If Michael Jordan has this 30-point games, so-and-so had their 130-point game. Trails only Michael Jordan, who has 395 30-point games.
I'd like what I'd like to see Jokic do one night, just for giggles to see if he can. And maybe this will happen as he gets a few more years under his belt and he doesn't care about scoring really at all. Target Scott Skiles' record.
Go for 30?
Get
that
31
so
dimes.
Impossible.
31 dimes. Like, look, man, he had 19 last night. I'd like to go back and look at the film. How many open shots did guys miss last night where that number might be 25? Yeah. Right? I mean, look, it's a crazy number. And by the way, just so people know, if you ever want to look it up and for historical perspective, I was in the game at the time Scott Skiles recorded his 30th assist.
You couldn't get a stop? What's going on here?
Listen, it was a 3-on-1 break. I was back in transition. He kicks the ball out to the wing to Jerry Ice Reynolds, and I go running at him. I'm playing for the Denver Nuggets, and I go running at him and get a hand up as I go flying by, and he makes the jumper, and that was assist number 30. So I'm in that shot. If they ever want to show that clip, I'm forever. I'm in that shot.
That's such a great detail. I didn't know. And it was the 30th one?
That was the 30th assist, yes. Yes,
There we
that was the
go,
one.
man.
I couldn't have run by on 28. I had to pick 30. Let me get in this shot. That's real smart.
I love that. Do you remember, like, were you aware as that game was going on with Scott Skiles what was happening? Like, was there a moment
Honestly,
where everyone's like,
that's funny because I don't recall that. I don't recall
yeah,
like us being aware that this was going on. And if that had been the case, and I did know that, there's a very good chance I just run straight through Jerry Sternum and put him in the second row and force him to make 2 free throws to prevent that assist.
uh,
Because I don't
I
think I
love it.
was aware of it, truthfully. I don't think I was. But think about that. I guess that was 1990. You could look this up, James. I guess it must have been 1991.
So,
I think it was
yeah,
1991. And think about that, man. This is 34 years later.
yeah,
It still
yeah.
stands. It's incredible.
That one's gonna be hard to break, honestly. 30 people don't get close. There's not a lot of like, oh, 28 assists. He was right there.
And you know
Yeah,
what's nuts? You know what's nuts?
December 30th, 1990. So this was almost New
Okay,
Year's
99.
Eve.
So this is an era, by the way. Think about this. Now, this is an era where you weren't taking all these catch and shoot threes. The game
Yeah.
was more inside, mid range, and getting to the rim. So like it was even harder to get assists then
Yeah.
than it
Yeah.
is now.
Yeah.
And he got 30 in a game. It's
Yeah.
kind of incredible.
It's pretty incredible. I did not prepare you for this one. We have one last layup line because I knew there were kind of a downer layup lines today, so we had to cleanse the palate. I want you to take a look at this. Look at this dominance.
And we have a front runner.
The greatest thing ever.
Number 11 is off. Off to the races.
It looks like he's got a battery pack somewhere that we don't know
It
about.
really does. Most dominant baby race performance I've ever seen in my life. If you're listening to this on audio,
Can you imagine if fast forward and one day you're looking at the 110-meter gold medal, right? And we go back to here, like this is when we kind of knew.
natural born racer, just always
right.
there. I've been watching baby races at the arena for 10 years, and they're always the same where none of the babies move. Maybe one kind of moves a little bit, this or that. I've never seen a baby know the assignment. It's like, I got to do it. I got to set a new record.
No chance, man. That's laser focus. That's unbelievable, man.
It's true. Head forward.
It's just, yeah. I mean, just dialed in. That's talking about coachable. That's coachable right there.
That's coachable, man. So you saw that, I take it. You'd already seen this clip?
Yeah, we actually showed that clip yesterday on Get Up. And we had a comment on it then too. But that was the first time I'd seen it. I didn't know what was coming. They said, take a look at this and comment. And they showed that clip, man. I was all about it.
Yeah, proud papa right there. All right, let's take our breaks. I want to talk Pistons, man. The game last night was good, but the run they're on and the story that they are has just been phenomenal. Cade Cunningham obviously is line item number one, but it's not the only one. There's a lot of players I want to get Legs' take on. We'll get to that on the other side. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you missed the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback like last night, Oklahoma City blowing it against the Minnesota Timberwolves, you can make your picks from the first whistle all the way to the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your bets live for a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to join today. That's FanDuel.com/AllNBA for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL or NBA. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you guys about Lucy Nicotine. It's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Lucy Breakers are nicotine pouches. That's the rage right now. With an extra surprise, each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. Set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. They've got all kinds of different options for you, 4 milligram, 8 milligram, and 12 milligram, and a bunch of different flavors, including pomegranate. So level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.com/AllNBA and use promo code AllNBA to get 20% off your first order. order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co, and use the code ALLNBA to get 20% off. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. All right, back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA show with myself and Tim Legler. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe so you never miss an episode. Live episodes on YouTube 4 times a week. You can also get us in your podcast app, which I highly recommend you subscribe, and also rate and review. If you guys, a lot of people say they love the show, they want to help grow it. Easiest thing you can do is like, subscribe, share with people, and rate and review it on your podcast apps. So we've been wanting to talk Pistons for a while. We've mentioned them, so they've made some layup lines. We've talked about them a little bit in passing, but I've been wanting to go deep on them for quite a while because they're one of the most fun teams to watch. They're a great story. I would argue maybe the best story in basketball this year, just in terms of like expectation to what you're getting. And they get their 7th straight win last night, 106-97 over the Clippers. Clippers a good team. And they still pull away in a third quarter behind Cade Cunningham's 32 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals. That's just becoming a ho-hum everyday stat line for him these days. Legs, what stood out to you about this game? Let's start with the game, and then we'll get into the team. But what stood out to you about this game?
I think what stood out to me was as you get into the fourth quarter of this game, it's a one-possession game. You know, you're thinking, hey, okay, the Pistons, obviously, to your point, I would argue, Adam, what you said is true. I think from a team perspective, it's the best story in the league. Maybe the only exception would be the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Because the Cavaliers to basically have this kind of a lead over the Celtics in the standings to look like a legitimate championship team as opposed to last year. They might be number one, but hey, look, this team lost what? I don't even know what there was, 30 games last year in a row. And you turn it around.
Crazy.
You're in the 6th spot in the Eastern Conference, within sight of 4, by the way. If you keep playing like this, like 4 is not out of reach. It's incredible. But this game, even though they've been hot and 6 in a row coming in, they just swept a 4-game road trip, which is really impressive in this league. I don't care who you are or who you're playing.
Yeah.
That's impressive. The fact that they played down the stretch with more poise, like they look like the seasoned team that's got expectations this year, and not the Clippers, which are mainly a veteran-laden team. The Pistons were the team that handled the bigger possessions better. They were the team that had better defensive
Like this
energy when the time required it. They were the ones that made big jump shots, or they beat them up on the offensive glass at critical times when they had to have it. They looked desperate, but at the same time played with poise when they had to have it. That's what stood out to me. You didn't feel like you were watching, well, you know, and they're not anymore like one of the bottom feeders of the league. I mean, obviously they're not. They don't deserve to be called that, but certainly don't have that aura about them yet that you have expectations for this team. And I'm starting to get to the point. Dare we say it? Can we say it? Are we allowed to say? Are we allowed to say this now? The Pistons are good. The Pistons are a good team.
Full stop.
Yeah, like that's no more qualifiers. No more qualifiers anymore with this stuff, man. Or you put little things in there, right? Preface what you're about to say, or like whatever, or a but at the end. No, man, they're a good team. There's no other way to look at it. And last night was just another example of it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that they were poised, you know, against a veteran team in the Clippers. I think it's one of their strong suits. One of their biggest traits is that your main player, Cade Cunningham, is one of the slowest main players, like ball in his hands players in the NBA. And I say that with full appreciation for what it means to be able to play slow. Luka's slow. Jokic is slow. Like, they're good players. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is slow. You know, he has a good burst, like one-offs, but he plays at a tempo that's very slow. Cade Cunningham, he almost runs and moves and dribbles and everything like slow-mo. Kyle Anderson, they can almost have the same body movements and how it looks like they're in slow motion, but it's just always in his tempo. Like, you can't speed him up. And when you have that, you feel like you're always doing what you want to do on the offensive end. You're always getting into the action and operating the way you want. And so that's my first time. We're going to talk a lot about Cade, but this is one of my first things about Cade is he's so successful playing at a snail's pace. And that is a huge advantage because it means you get to dictate terms.
Completely agree with it. And look, what his main attribute is just incredible size at that spot. And he's just strong and he's got wide shoulders. So like, it's hard to get around him. If he gets you on his hip, going to the rim, even though he's not going to separate from you with speed, he's going to keep you on his hip and then be able to finish if he has to, or make that. He's really good at the late find with the lob or the corner kick out. Like, he's making those passes now. His favorite play, if he's not like right down the lane, if he's just outside the lane driving, he loves that little lean back jumper on the baseline he can go to. And
he had a nice one last night, almost behind the backboard.
A big one last night that mattered a lot. Because he can get to the lean back because he's got good height, and he's on balance because he's never going too fast. He's never out of control. So all of these things are compliments to his game. He's an unquestioned leader on a team full of just really young dudes, man. Yeah. They look up to him. Like, he represents for them the stability, and represents for them that one guy that when you take the floor, has the potential this particular night to be the best player on the floor. And then these guys are the rest of them. They play with energy and they play hard, and they get enough from wherever on a given night. They don't even care where it comes from. They're going to get their 25, 30 out of Cade, some nights more. And then everybody else, they're going to expect obviously a certain amount of jump shots to be made amongst their three shooters, but they don't know where it's coming from amongst those three. And then the rest of you guys just play hard, run, crash the glass, and just go pick up all the crumbs. You add it all up, and you've got kind of enough for them offensively. And then the other end of the floor is where they really lay their head. Like, that's why this was a fascinating game. The first quarter, there were open shots missed, right? But that game was barely teams. What was the final score of the quarter? Yeah, 23-17. And like, Detroit got to 20 late, or that game is both in the teens at the end of the first quarter, because you're talking about two really good defensive teams. So that's where they hang their hat, that end, and then they just get enough offensively on a given night. And this is 7 straight wins, man. This is a second pretty long winning streak, by the way, of the year. And like I said, they just won 4 straight games on a road trip. That's really hard to do in this league.
Especially for a young team, because that shows you focus. And this is another thing about Cade. I don't think I've ever interviewed him, so I don't know him personally. I haven't even really gotten a measure of him, just from a locker room or what have you. They only come to Denver. He's only been to Denver maybe 4 times. But what I like about him is he seems like a guy that is, one, I love the tempo, I love the skill set, but he seems like a guy that is focused on the right things, and it reflects in his improvement. Year 4 player should be improving. But he improved his points. He's at 26 points a game. He improved his rebounds. He's at 9.5 a game. He's improved his defense. Those metrics are up. His 3-point shot is a career high. 2-point shot is a career high. It's every skill is up. And one of the things I look at, like, okay, so his 3-point catch and shoot, like, he's really shooting lights out over this run here. His 3-point shot has confidence to it. He seems to know how to get into it without the dribble. Like, he does a lot of things where he catches so he can go straight up if the defender sags off him a little bit. But he also hits the floater zone shot. You mentioned the fall away. That's almost a mid-range shot. Get the shoulder into you, fall away on the baseline. But the floater shot where it's like, can I get to the rim? I can't. What can I do now? Euro steps or little decelerations. And now it's a little 5-foot float shot. He's just added that to his game in a way that's not ugly or forced. He added it in a way that's functional. And so when I see a player year after year, usually it's, they got better as a shooter. They got better as a ball handler, whatever. Every single thing is better. He's improved every aspect of basketball. And that's what gives me confidence in him. Is I love the skill set, but I also love his ability to grow, because I can project this out 2 or 3 years. And it's scary because he's already an all-NBA candidate player right now, in my opinion.
Yeah. And to me, he's the case study in why we have to avoid the quick hot take and the early judgment on these young players coming into the league. Because, he was the number 1 pick in the draft, and a lot of people, really liked his game coming out. And then he goes into like this basketball Siberia for a few years where they're just absolutely terrible. He has an injury that keeps him out for an extended period of time during one season. And it's like some people kind of just shelve him to the side. Like, oh, okay, that you look at the list of number 1 picks historically and you go, oh, Cade Cunningham. People think, oh, bust. And it's like, that's why it's hard, man. You got to give these guys time. He was just drafted in 2021, and now it's coming together. His game sort of always been there, but now he's added something every year. He's better than he's ever been. And finally, he's on a team that's winning games and getting all this love. I mean, somebody here in the chat talked about, he's got to get MVP consideration. I don't know about that, but the point is, all league isn't out of the question. If they continue to win at a high rate, and they're well above 500 when the season ends, and they're in a playoff spot that's like 4, 5, or 6. With what he's done, I mean, he might get some all-league consideration. It's possible. So let's pump the brakes on like just trying to make up our minds on these guys so fast. Just give them time. And yes, I got another question for you, another take on this game. I was thinking about him last night because he had a very good game. And he was brought in there this year for a specific reason. They had a bunch of young bucks on this team, and they wanted veteran leadership, and they wanted shooting. So they went out and they signed 3 guys, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and then this last guy, Tobias Harris.
Yeah, he was great last night.
Tobias Harris at one point in an interview in Philadelphia said, the fans here would probably trade me now for a tasty cake.
That's right.
Because they're made in Philly. So and because that's how little appreciation he felt. He got the big deal, and he wasn't that at that point on that team. He was like their 4th option most nights. And look, he did have some struggles in playoff series that really, he heard about, and they never lived it down. And I mean, he was the number 1 target of fans' criticism his last 3 years in Philadelphia. And there's no denying that. So I'm just wondering, I'm watching him last night. He puts up 20 on this young team. They're winning. They won 7 straight. On the night they win their 7th straight, and he gives them a 20 against this team. Philly's down 50 at home to the Bulls, and Embiid might not play anytime soon. And I just was thinking about Tobias Harris last night and having, I don't want to call it the last laugh, but at the same time, a little bit of personal redemption, like in his own mind. Like he's in a very healthy, winning environment with young guys that are loving this stuff, are having so much fun every night. And you see what's going on in Philadelphia since he left. And he was the guy that everybody came after over and over and over for like the last 3 or 4 years. I just found a little irony in that last night.
Here's my Tobias Harris take. I think that he is a guy that will look good on a smart team where there's rhythm to the team. And if you take him to a team like 76ers played, where it's really through certain guys and you're a spot up guy, kind of a standstill guy. I know they let him get the ball and post up and do different things. But I feel like the rhythm that the Pistons play, he knows how to play basketball. So now everything's in rhythm, and he'll have nights where he shoots like he did last night and gets 20 points, 9 of 13 shooting. But when he's on a team like the Sixers, I think that's hard sometimes for all-around players who aren't specialists. I don't just stay in the corner. It's hard to be a corner guy, and then you play there. So that's my take on Tobias Harris.
Yeah, that's fair, man. I always I understood the fans' frustration because he did, like I said, he had some small moments in big spots.
He came up small, yeah.
I understood that, but I also understood that there's also a part of him like he's a pro, man. He's a pro. He's a good dude, and he shows up and he plays, and he sacrifices sometimes. He's there every night, and I'm just happy for him personally that he's in a good spot, a healthy spot. He's adding value to this team, and that's got to be fun right now for all of those guys. Like, particularly what they were just so embarrassed last year on a nightly basis. I mean, they're leading SportsCenter at one point with their losing streak. That's where they were at one point last year. To go from that to this in one season, it's like incredible, man. So, they've become one of my probably top 5 favorite teams just to watch, because it's just exciting to watch what they're doing, and they're a really good team now, man. So it's about all I can say about them. Just continue to keep an eye on them, and I wonder if there's more real estate to grab for them in the East.
All right, I'm going to go in order now. So we talked Cade. We both love what he's doing. We think he's incredible. His ceiling is incredibly high. Let's go into some of the other reasons that they have been impressive this year. And I'm going to start in the order that I am going to give credit, but you might disagree. Ausar Thompson is really coming on. Double figures in 9 of the last 10. He's averaging 4 stocks a game, a little bit over 2 steals, a little bit under 2 blocks, does it both ways. But his defensive impact is insane, just like his brother, who we've given an enormous amount of credit to. We've been talking about Houston early on. He kind of is the same thing. He just disrupts so much. He's so athletic. He's so quick off his feet. And his instincts, he's early to every rotation. He's quick off of his feet for rebounds and contests. He's quick in transition. But defensively, like you talk about, Cade has them on lock offensively. Ausar Thompson has him on lock defensively. He makes that big of an impact to me.
I just got to do a game to see his brother Oh man, I haven't seen Ausar in person, but with some of the plays he made last night, he had 2 plays in particular that stood out to me that are just like so unique athletically. He had a play where the ball's being taken out under the basket on a baseline out of bounds, and if you're imagining the court and I'm the inbounder, like so I'm basically to the basket is to my left, right? So I'm over toward like the left corner on the court taking it out. He's all the way in the opposite corner. And the defender turned his head for a second. He sprinted in. They threw it to him, and he didn't dribble, and he jumped from this weird angle with a defender on him. It might have been Harden, and he extends his left arm and dunks the ball. And like no one really even knew what happened. Like everybody else had barely moved, and he had already finished the play. And then he had a breakaway. Somebody had a breakaway that he tracked them down, and he blocked the ball twice. He pinned it with his right hand and kept flying through the air. And as the ball was coming off the backboard, he smacked it back into the backboard with his left hand. So he literally played bongos on this thing on the backboard and blocked the ball. And I'm like, there's very few athletes in the league that are going to be able to make that play. It's just different level of burst off your feet. Yeah. He and his brother both have it.
That's what it is.
It's so explosive to watch. And look, both of them, obviously they need to continue to grow their game. I think Amen is ahead of him offensively, just in terms of like confidence and scoring abilities and handling the ball in the open floor. But Ausar defensively every bit on that level. Yep. Now they both have to continue to add to their game, man, to continue to expand who they are as a player by expanding their range and their ability to be more of a threat offensively. But I agree. He's special. I also think the other thing that they've really done, Adam, is I think it's critical that they went out and they made a great move addressing the shooting situation, because it was an abomination last year.
Yeah,
who was around their guards? Like you just can't go out there with that level, that threat level from the 3-point line. They went out and they assigned the 3 guys I mentioned, Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, and just they're all vets. They're pros. They brought maturity to the locker room with those young guys. And then most importantly, they tangibly brought something that Cade Cunningham needed, which was guys that could be a threat to give me more room to operate. And that was a very wise move on the part of the front office, targeting that type of player.
Well, the number 2 guy I'm going to shout out here is Malik Beasley, who you mentioned, 16.5 points per game, 42% three-point shooting. Of 22 players taking at least 8 threes a game, he's number 1 in three-point percentage. And then courtesy of Zach Lowe, this crazy stat, only one player in NBA history has hit 42% of threes while attempting at least 11 per 36 minutes. That's, of course, Steph Curry, who's done it 5 times. If the numbers hold, Malik Beasley will join him. The only players ever 11 threes per 36 is Steph Curry 5 times and now Malik Beasley. That's the volume he's getting up and the efficiency he's hitting. And to your point, it's not just that they added a shooter. They added a guy who could have this volume of contribution from the 3-point line.
Yeah, it's crazy when you look at the list, and Buddy Hield is in this list too. You know, I think he's made the second most threes in the league in the last 5 years besides Curry. Like, You're like, what? You know, you get some of these random questions sometimes and you don't know the answer. You look it up and you're like, wow, Buddy Hield. Like, and Malik Beasley's like in that class. He's been around, man. He's been on different teams. And he's out there to do one thing, and I will give him credit. He does not see one he does not like. He thinks they're all open and they're all going in, and that's great. That's the mentality you have to have, especially in this era of basketball in the league when there is no such thing as a bad 3. Just why not? Catch it, get it up, and some nights he catches fire, and he's a big weapon for them.
The next guy I'm going to bring up, and now the order, you can just throw it wherever you want. Jalen Duren, to me, is another guy that's just so interesting. He has his holes in his game, but he's averaging 11 and 10. There's only 18 players in the NBA averaging a points, rebounds, double-double. He's one of them. He's an insane offensive rebounder. He's strong as heck. And you know what they have him doing a lot of that I think people would be surprised at? They have him up top running a lot of delay action and elbow action, and he's a pretty decent passer. He had this underhanded pass to Cade on a cut. There was not a big window there. He kind of just flips it to him on the run, right on the money. I'm not saying he's Jokic or anything, but he is a guy that they can use in that role, and he's building a chemistry with Cade on these back doors.
Well, when we did a preseason game, I haven't seen a regular season game with them. I did a preseason game and talked to JB Bickerstaff about their team and just growth of guys. And he said one of the things they were encouraging more and more every day was Jalen Duren being able to take the ball off the glass and everybody just take off and let him handle the ball in the middle of the floor. And if you see him, In person, you're like, man, this dude is jacked. He is
He looks
big,
big.
wide as a house, big shoulders, sets absolutely bone-crushing screens. Set one in that game, actually, and put Gary Trent on the ground. I thought he dislocated his collar or his shoulder or something, or broke his collarbone. He went down so hard. He's just a brick wall. But now they're telling you, okay, we want him to take off the glass because he's got skill enough to handle the ball in the middle of the floor as another weapon. And you look up, to your point, I mean, 4.1 assists for a guy like that, that's a really high number. You would never expect Jalen Duren to average 4 assists a game. And he's had 6 games over 5 assists in his last 7.
Wow.
Those are really high assist numbers for your
Yeah.
center. In addition to the fact that this month he's given you 14 points, 12 boards. So even this month, his numbers are on an uptick over his overall regular season averages, but it includes 4.1 assists, finishing at almost 70% from the field.
Yeah.
Man, what more can you say about the guy? He's a highly productive player, plays hard, gives them like a toughness. You know, every team when I played had one of those type guys that look like a bouncer at the club. Like that's Jalen Duren's role in this team. Like, yeah, he's just so big and like menacing, and they, you know, you need some of that in the paint.
Yeah. And then the next guy who probably will bump up this list, but he hasn't been there for a while. I love the acquisition of Dennis Schroder. I think that and here's what I like about him. One, I mean, he's played a lot of different basketball, you know, with a bunch of different teams. Obviously been great at the FIBA level and the NBA level, which means something to me that you can kind of adjust your game to different styles. But it's his quickness. And when I think about, you know, if Cade Cunningham plays like Luka in a certain way where the ball's going to be in his hands, he's going to set things up, he's going to bend the defense. Your best option is to have shooters around there. So you swing the ball and you knock down the shot. But the second best thing, in my opinion, that you can put next to that type of player is somebody who's quick off of the attack. So when you swing the ball, it gets to him, and now a scrambled defense is trying to close out on a quick player. They have not played a lot of minutes together so far. I think just 38 total minutes, but they're a plus 24 in those minutes. And Schroder fits in mostly when Cade's out. He can run the show. He can set the table. But when they're together, I think that's going to be very dynamic offensively, where teams are not going to be able to deal with Cade's craftiness and his quickness at the same time.
Man, he's a tough one for me. Like I really liked him in Atlanta, and I thought he hit his absolute peak in Oklahoma City when his role was different. He wasn't like the lead guard anymore. He had that combo guard, go score for us off the bench a lot of nights mentality. I thought that was his perfect lane. You think about this, man. He's been on 8 teams in 9 years.
Yeah.
8 teams in 9 years. It's
Journeyman.
it's like I appreciate his talent, but at the same time, I'm like, why does this dude not find a home anywhere?
Yeah.
I mean, is this going to be the one? Like, I don't know, man. He's a guy that comes in. He's a short-term hire. He helps you, and then teams seem to find a way to move on from him. So I don't know, man. I'm a little bit torn on Schroder. I'm not at the place I used to be in appreciating and admiring his game and his impact.
What do you think of the idea, though, about a quick player? I mean, we see this with Kyrie. Kyrie is very quick off when he was playing with Luka, off, or LeBron, off of him. Like, I just like the idea. I think Denver has realized this year. It's one of the things Russ adds is Jokic bends the defense, and then you get it to Russ on the move, and all of a sudden you can't stop him. He's a bullet. So the concept of Schroder, though, being alongside Cade is this release valve.
I like it. I mean, and look, you're not going to find too many guys in the league that are quicker in that regard. He still has that. He hasn't lost any of that burst. And again, you know, for him, some of the previous spots, they were not very happy places for him. So I'm happy for him, man. He's in a place. These guys, I just would like to see like what it's like to be around their team right now on a daily basis, man. In the locker room, on the buses to the airport, on the charter. Like, it must be fun.
Vibes
Their
are high, man.
practices are probably fun. I mean, JB Bickerstaff, it's an interesting story because, you know, here he was in Cleveland, right? They win around, which is not easy to do in the NBA. And then they lose to clearly the best team in the NBA without Jared Allen. And they lose to the Celtics. No shame in that. And you're out. And then the guy that comes in does this incredible job with the Cavaliers. And now it's like, wow, okay, maybe they made the right hire. So that's why I'm kind of glad for JB that he's able to go have this kind of success and validate the success that he had in Cleveland, even though they weren't able to, break through. And I guess whatever that meant for them, you're supposed to beat the Celtics on the road. Like, I don't know what they expected, but he's now with a team that I think he's being appreciated. And it's a totally different cast of characters than what he had in Cleveland. So this is really interesting what he's been able to do and relate to these guys and get them to max out who they are. And they obviously now must have massive respect for him and a belief, because nothing pounds home belief in your own head and credibility than winning. Yeah. That's it, especially for young players. Like, you can tell me what you want. I'll try it your way, coach. This is how most young guys think. We go 3-6. You know what? We're going to do things a little differently around here. We're going to start doing stuff our way. You win. What choice do you have? There's a buy-in there that makes his job a lot easier every day.
Well, they play Boston next, and I just love that they get this challenge, this measuring stick game after feeling great about themselves. 7-game win streak. The Celtics are obviously playing phenomenally, as we talked about yesterday. So I'm excited for that one, just to kind of see how they stack up. And after that, they have Denver.
Where's that game? Where's that game?
That game is in Detroit. Detroit has a 4-game homestand.
When is that, Thursday?
Wednesday.
A Wednesday night. Okay.
Yeah. So,
by the way, you guys right after that going into Detroit.
Yeah, then Denver. So they have 2 tough ones. I mean, it's a homestand, but 2 measuring stick games coming off of the 7-game win streak, which is, for me, it's perfect. You get a little momentum into your toughest challenges.
They knock off Boston and Denver at home in the next 2.
Oh, Trade's left the station.
They're 100%, and they're going to literally become now like a topic of conversation on a daily basis on all outlets. How can you not? Because at that point, you're like, man, they could possibly climb as high as 4.
Yeah.
Host a playoff series? I mean, come on, man. But
last year, that's the Pacers.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Boston is doing some special things right now. So let's see what Boston's response is to this young upstart. They're probably going to want to send a message.
Well, let's move on to our other game that happened last night we wanted to talk about, and that was the Timberwolves rolling back on the Thunder, 131-128. They were down as many as 25 points, and they get this new record. I mean, this is a new thing for courtesy of ESPN stats. Minnesota was the first team in NBA history to win a road game when trailing by at least 20 points in the fourth quarter to a team with an 800 or better winning percentage. That's kind of a made-up stat, right? On the road against a team with this many wins, whatever.
No, but it's great. I mean, you need all that context. You need all that.
I'm just saying, it's rare for a team as good as the Thunder to blow a 20-point lead at home. But the Timberwolves forced that last night, and they forced it behind a lineup of, this is what I love most about it. It wasn't throwing the towel, but you had Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon, Nikola Alexander-Walker, my guy, Naz Reid, and Jaden McDaniels. And they start this comeback, and Chris Finch says, you know what? I'll let you guys finish this off. And they did it. Anthony Edwards did check in and come in late in the fourth quarter. But that lineup goes in there and causes problems for the Thunder. What happened here?
Well, first, you put so many layers on that first time in history. I was like, the next one's going to be in a game in which the 3 officials were an Aquarius, a Virgo, and a Libra. Like, I didn't know what was going to be next out of your mouth, man.
Known.
It kept going. It's fine.
That's a real stat. It's
great.
Stat.
It's a real stat. It's a real thing. And we watched it. All right. So a number of things stand out. The first thing is, because I got asked this question a lot on the shows I did today, it's always bigger, big. Is this more about the Wolves or more about OKC? Like, that's always the question. It's never mutually exclusive, by the way. It's just not. Both teams contributed to it. So I'll start with this. I'll start with the Minnesota stuff. One, they kept playing, which is that alone in a night of a back-to-back when you're down 20 early fourth quarter. And Anthony Edwards did come out of the game, but he was probably going to go back in if it had been closer. He goes out, but then they left those other guys in. And Naz Reid stayed in the game. Nickeil Alexander-Walker stayed in the game. Jaden McDaniel stayed in the game. So they were still playing. So that's the first thing. Most teams, second night back-to-back against that team on the road, you're going to go, you know what? Go ahead, man. We're, okay, let's just get out of here and get this over with. They kept playing. And when you play, hey, maybe some things can happen. That's first. Secondly, they threw something at Oklahoma City that was really interesting to me in the fourth quarter. And I'm wondering, now they have the athletes to pull this off. Not everybody does. They went to this super extended 2-2-1 zone where they basically had Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker at the top of the key in like a V formation, basically with a soft blitz on Shea.
Yeah, get it out of his hands.
He's coming over half court, and those guys are fully extending out. just to force him to give it up and see what would happen, and then hopefully not let him get it back. And Oklahoma City kind of fell prey to it in that it got out of his hands, and they took a number of early shots during that fourth quarter when that lead was being cut into. Threes, that's not their strength. And they did it. And they missed a couple in the lane that were kind of easy. So I thought this defensive thing was really effective against Shea in bottling up his ability to beat somebody one-on-one in the middle of the floor, because that's what everything is predicated on for him and their offense. And he couldn't do it because of the way they had two guys up there all the time. So that was interesting to me in terms of strategy. It worked. A 16-0 run to close the game to force overtime. It worked. So that's from Minnesota standpoint. That's the good. Now let's talk about Oklahoma City real quick. Listen, man, you can't blow that game. You gagged it up. And the number one reason you did, they put them on the line 14 times in the fourth quarter. 14 with a lead at home.
Yeah.
8 more times, Adam, 8 more times in overtime. That's 22 free throws in 17 minutes. And that's the only way you can pull something like this off. Scoring with the clock stopped and being able to set your defense. And that's really, to me, the number one contributor in what happened was Oklahoma City took shots out of that little trap that were too quick, and then they were fouling repeatedly at the other end of the floor and sending these guys to the line and giving them free points and not making them earn shots against the best defense in the league. So to me, Minnesota did some good things, make no mistake. This was Oklahoma City getting away from like who they are and their identity, and it's for a night. I'm not going to overread it, man. I'm going to go with their full body of work this year. This doesn't make them vulnerable to me. In fact, this might be the most important lesson they're going to learn all year. And I'm sure that's what Mark Daigneault was telling them. Lesson learned. This game was not over. The way we played offensively let them back in it. And then what we did on the defensive end of the floor with all these fouls, that's uncharacteristic of our team. And you can see what can happen if you're not paying attention to detail. To me, it's a great lesson that might help them in the long run. People today wanted to blow this up as in Oklahoma City's not what we thought they were. And I'm not going there.
Well, here's what I think is pertinent to the conversation. You know, what the Lakers did to Denver of not only we're going to take double Jokic, we're going to make it so that he can't get the ball. We're going to keep the ball out of his hands by overextending. And now we're vulnerable to your secondary creation. That's kind of what you're talking about with what they did with Shea last night. We're going to trap him at half court and we'll play 4-on-3 in a scramble, but let's see what your other creation is. And to your point, they shot early, which is when you have a lead, don't force things. And that's one of the reasons you trap and scramble like that, is you try to speed the other team up. They fell into that trap. But number two, they missed all their open shots. They just missed a bunch of them. And we've seen the losses from Oklahoma City. I think if you're an Oklahoma City, defender, you say, well, everybody misses shots sometimes, and that's fair. Teams go cold. But for them, there have been in their high-profile losses, it has been other guys were left wide open and they just did not convert on them. And that's what you got in this fourth quarter as well. And I don't think it's a big deal, but it is the one thing if you're Oklahoma City that you're concerned of. What if teams say, well, double Shea and other guys are going to get wide open looks? Are they up for it?
And I think it's fair if they have an Achilles heel that we've talked about this year. I think Jalen Williams has answered one of those that you and I were talking about, which was, is Jalen Williams that guy as the number two? And I think he's answered that for me. He's impressed me since I raised the question, and the more I've watched him. And he had 27 points last night. And he's an excellent, an excellent, all league caliber defender. So he get that every night. I was wondering, okay, as that guy, when Shea's getting his 8 to 10 minutes rest and you're running it through him, is that good enough? Is it good enough when Shea's seeing certain defenses thrown at him, and now it's going to be more up to you to make them pay for it? And I do think he is good enough. And Aaron Wiggins' emergence helps me feel more comfortable in that, because Aaron Wiggins is now, every single night, you're expecting a minimum of 15 points. A lot of nights over 20. He had 19 last night. He's legit. Just every night he's providing that production. That kind of makes it a little easier for Jalen Williams as well. So the other Achilles heel besides that was the 3-point shooting. And can it dry up at times? 49 threes for them is too many. And he made 15 out of 49. It's not a terrible percentage.
They missed a lot
well,
late.
It's low 30s, actually. It's low 30s. That's not great. but they made 15 is my point. They made 15. That's a good number for an NBA game. 49 threes for that team?
Yeah.
No way, man. And the reason they got that number got up there was because of this trap they put on him to force him to give the ball up early, not let him break you down with a high ball screen or ISO and then break your whole defense down. And what were you going to do on the back end of it? And he took a lot of threes that didn't go in. And so now I'm looking, is there who else can try this strategy against them? Like I said, not everybody's got those kind of athletes on the wing with that kind of length and reach and quickness and rim protection behind them. With Nas, they didn't, not everybody has that package. So I don't know. Maybe they can't replicate it, just like what the Lakers did to Jokic. How many teams are going to replicate that against them? You got to have big, strong forwards to do that. And they have 4 of them on the Lakers. And they were able to pull that off because of it. Not everybody has that. So it's easy to say, well, that's the way to play Jokic. That's how you play Shea. Not everybody, unfortunately, can implement that kind of game plan and pull it off. It worked Saturday against Denver. It worked last night against OKC.
I think if you look at the teams in the Eastern Conference, because, this is the Thunder are a title contending team. They're not just looking at their own conference. They're looking beyond. Boston has that. They have the length and the defensive discipline to be able to execute those types of game plans. And then Cleveland, this is a big part of why they brought in DeAndre Hunter. You're bolstering your wing depth. So you have these long guys. They also have the guards, but they have these long guys. So I almost look at it in the West. There are teams like the Lakers, like you mentioned, Minnesota, who we just saw. Like there are some teams that have it, but you get to the finals, in my opinion, you're almost certainly facing one of Boston or Cleveland. And both of those teams, I think, have the tools to do that. So that would be a challenge for them as well. But you mentioned the 3-point shooting. Here's the numbers, Legs. 2 of 15 in the fourth quarter. 0 of 3 from Jalen Williams, 0 of 2 from Casey Wallace, 0 of 3 from Aaron Wiggins, 0 of 3 from Alex Caruso. And that's what I'm talking about. Look, Jalen Williams, okay, like he doesn't go 0 for 3 too often, but Casey Wallace, Alex Caruso, Aaron Wiggins, even those are the others that if teams go into a playoff series and can't stop Shea, which is most teams, you're saying like, I just don't know if those guys can make them in the pressure cooker. And they do most of the time, but they haven't in their key losses this year.
What was interesting, last point about this, was how this coincided, this performance and blowing this lead and some of these things we're talking about being exposed with what's going on in LA, with what's going on in Golden State. My point being, the narrative is significantly picking up that the West is open.
Yeah.
Right? And it didn't look open the way Oklahoma City had steamrolled through this league. Yeah. And, Houston and Memphis had been on their heels, but no one really bought in. They haven't convinced us enough. Denver, little bit of a roller coaster season for them, playing their best ball lately. And then that happens on Saturday and everybody kind of goes, okay, wait a second. So it's just interesting now because of what's going on with Luka going to LA, with Jimmy Butler going to Golden State, and these other teams, like people not sure about them. Minnesota also in that group. It now is like, oh, in Oklahoma City, by the way, they blow a 20-point lead on their home court in the fourth quarter of a game. So, they're vulnerable. So just get ready. This conversation, and especially if the Lakers continue to roll, this conversation is going to significantly pick up in terms of, not a foregone conclusion that Oklahoma City's winning the Western Conference. And I guess, as I sit here right now, maybe that's fair. Maybe that is fair because of what these other teams have done to improve their teams and the way they're playing. And I don't know about last night. That's not going to bother me that much, what happened to Oklahoma City last night.
Yeah, it kind of crashed at the end. They actually dominated the game all the way up until the moment they didn't. So
I don't know. I can see you being somebody that puts it on a note card in your pocket to whip out whenever you get a chance if you want to question them. Yeah, I can see it.
I'll tell you what. I unfortunately have watched my team, the Nuggets, blow a 20-point fourth quarter lead in a more high-profile game. So I've seen the Wolves do this before.
That's a good point.
In the comments, by the way, I received my greatest compliment ever here from Daniel Vincent. He says, Adam kind of looks like Joker. You know what? I'll take it. I look like the 3-time MVP. What a compliment. He hasn't even seen me on the court, Legs. You have no idea, man. So
I would.
Did we lose legs? Oh man, right as the show was winding up.
There we go.
Legs? Did we lose you?
There we go. I don't know what happened.
You were about to insult me too, so I think
No, I wasn't at all. Actually, I was complimenting you for being compared to somebody that's got 3 MVPs. I'm like, I don't care what the context is. Yeah, I'll take that comparison any day of the week.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our super chats here. I know we have a couple of them here to wrap up the show. Good chat today. Teddy Hart says, why do teams give last shot to best player rather than who's best equipped for the shot needed? I.e., OKC needed a 3 to tie, but SGA having at best from 3, average at best from 3, gets the ball rather than a play run for the other 3 snipers on the floor. Why?
I'll tell you why. Very simply. It's great in theory. The problem is what you're talking about for those other guys, you got to run action for them. You got to run some sort of action, and teams can defend that, deny it. And now you've run a set that it leads to nothing. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the ability against any defender in front of him to get off a fairly quality look in that situation. And that goes for most of these closers on teams, like these star players, Anthony Edwards of the world, guys like that, Kevin Durant, over the years, Steph Curry, though, because of their handle and their shooting ability, you feel confident. At least they're going to get a decent shot up. Whereas if you run some sort of action to get somebody off a down screen or dribble handoff, and it leads to a trap, you might not even get a shot off. So that's really why. I agree with you. Like most cases, teams settle games the same way, and the shooting percentages collectively of those shots, one-on-one, deep jumpers, either to tie, win, or ice it, whatever it may be. I bet you if you went back and looked at all the data historically, that shot is probably made less than 15% of the time.
Yeah. You know what though? It's higher for Shai. He's a phenomenal though. Like he was Mr. Clutch last year. I think he won the Clutch Award. So not the worst.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of those, Adam, is when it's like, okay, it's tied or they're down 1, and he can get to 18 feet.
Yeah. Because
that's really where now he's almost unstoppable.
Right.
This was like you're down 3, it's going to be a 3. Yeah. And now you got him a little bit more at your mercy. So it's tough. I know people hate seeing it, but I'm explaining it. That's why, because his handle will allow him to get a shot off. You don't have to worry about running screens where multiple guys are involved, and now something could go off the rails.
Yeah. All right. What else we got? Psycho Blue says, for years to come, when someone suggests take them to Detroit, players will go, yeah, please, Detroit, to their agent. Never underestimate how quickly a front office shakeup can turn a team around. I mean, maybe, look, they have a good vibe right now. They have a good vibe. Why not? Why not Detroit?
Yeah, I agree, man. It's front office. It's some personnel acquisitions, and it's young guys coming of age a little bit. That's really what it's all adds up to.
I'd play with Cade. He looks like a fun guy to play with. It's not the worst player to pair with. All right, what else you got? Mr. Exquisite Nugget says, no, Adam, turnovers are killer in everything. If Russ was still starting for Nuggets, how much higher would they be? And Tim, are C still top tier right now? The Russ starting one is Denver's streak started when Russ went back to the bench, or went out of the lineup. So I don't think they'd be higher with Russ starting right now, but maybe you feel differently.
First of all, what's the second part of that? The C's.
The Celtics, are they still top tier?
Top tier. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Cedric has some funny questions. You'll notice, Legs. He has some obvious questions.
Yeah, man. They're actually playing their best basketball. In fact, I don't know. I haven't looked today. I bet you right now, if you look at a lot of people's, quote, power rankings and how they determine how you should rank teams in this league, they're probably at the top for a lot of teams. Or a lot of people's lists, even though Cleveland is significantly better record, Oklahoma City significantly better record. It's the way Boston is playing right now that's reminding you of how good they were a year ago in the postseason.
I like this from Charlie Saturday. He says, who was Legs' ultimate revenge game target as a player? Did you ever have a revenge game? Like you're like, you know what? Yeah.
Oh, I did. Oh my God, I got a great story.
Here, let's hear it.
I guess it's at the collegiate level. Does that count?
Yeah, of course.
So so I was recruited. My official visits came down to, and like the 5 choices I was making was LaSalle University, which I ultimately chose. I had University of Virginia, Richmond, VCU, and Princeton. Okay, so I go on all my visits. I make my decision. I inform all the coaches. My parents were big on that. You're going to call these coaches yourself. You're going to thank them for recruiting you. You're going to tell them thank you for the opportunity, but you've chosen LaSalle. I did that for all the schools. Nothing but best wishes from VCU. Nothing but best wishes from University of Virginia. Nothing but best wishes from University of Richmond. Pete Carrill at Princeton University basically said, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. And he said it to me on the phone. And I'm like, wow, I was kind of rattled by that. Like, well, did I? I looked at my dad. Like, maybe I did. Like, what am I doing? So now fast forward, we play Princeton at Princeton my senior year. And we are down 2 with less than 5 seconds to go in the game. And we've got to go the length of the court. And we inbound the ball in the backcourt, and I get the ball, and I just dribble as fast as I can half court. Our point guard got trapped, came back to me. So now I got like 3 seconds. I dribble as fast as I can to half court. I jump right at the half court line, and I release the ball. This is at Princeton. The ball's in the air, buzzer goes off. The ball's halfway to the rim. It hits the back of the rim, goes straight up in the air, probably 10 to 12 feet. And drops straight back through the net for a game-winning three-pointer from half court at the buzzer. Kept us undefeated. It was early in the season. Teammates running the court swarm me. I look over to the bench at Pete Carrill, and he is laying on his back on the court with his arms spread like he's doing a snow angel because he just saw that ball drop through. That was my revenge story.
Yeah. He didn't walk over to him and say, regret this.
Yeah, eat that, Carrill. No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I was above that, Adam. You know, I was a classy kid. I was a classy kid, Adam.
Diz says, RE Sixers/Eagles, does Legs have any experience playing for a bad team while the other city's teams are thriving? How much worse is it? I like this one. This is a great question.
Let me think. Yeah, Dallas. I was in Dallas. We were one of the worst teams in the league, and the Cowboys were winning Super Bowls. That's when the Aikman years, Aikman and Emmitt Smith years, they were winning Super Bowls, and we were an absolute bottom feeder, man. And it's not fun, but at the same time, it takes pressure off of you because everybody's happy in the city for the most part.
And there's something else to talk about. Like, I feel like this is part of the Sixers' problem. They've been bad for all year. The Eagles Super Bowl parade goes through, and now everybody's like, "What's going on with the Sixers? Oh my God, holy crap!" All right, what do we got? DJ Seahawk, which is just Cedric. Says Thunder lame. Velveteen losing Wolves first round exit. All right, thanks for that, DJ Seahawk. What else do we have? Jia Huang says OKC, KFC, UFC, Lakers, and
you know
5.
who said that? You know who said that? He's like that. He put that up there because that's exactly what Shannon Sharp said yesterday on First Take when I was on the segment with him and Stephen A. Because he's a big Lakers fan. That's what he said.
Yeah. Oh, there you go, man. All right, cue that outro music. We didn't even get to preview tonight's game, and we're out of time. But tonight, Luka Doncic hosts the Dallas Mavericks in LA. I swear he's already looks like he's lost 20 pounds. I don't know if you've seen the pictures.
I totally agree, man. I totally agree.
It's,
you know, listen, man. Like I said, fat Luka could have been dropping 30 with a bib from Red Lobster on. I wouldn't cared. I'm paying him the Supermax.
Predict the stat line tonight from Luka Doncic.
Oh man, okay. I'm going to predict stat line of 31. 9 and 8. I think that they get up big, and he or else he goes for the kill shot. He's waiting for the April return to Dallas to go full scorched earth. But do expect him to take a heat check right out of layup lines because that's what he does. He takes a heat check first trip up the floor. If he hits 2 threes early, maybe tonight he does something special too. But I really think he's going to bottle that up to do it against a healthy Mavs team in Dallas in front of Nico Harrison.
I'm going to say 38. 9 and 13. I think he has a little bit bigger of a punch for the Mavs tonight, man. So, but we'll see. You know what? Should be interesting. Should be drama, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow on this very show. That's why you got to make sure you subscribe, set alerts so you never miss a show. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Silly like the mayor.